Hello students, so once again this video for class 11th, and this time now this is from Snapshot, and this chapter which we are taking today is Mother's Day by J.B. Priestley. And when we talk about J.B. Priestley, he was born in 1894 in England, and this is a play for you, but this Priestley, he was not only a playwright, he was a novelist, playwright, then he was social commentator, he was screenwriter, and he was a broadcaster also. So many roles he played in his life, and he died in 1984. So in this long period of 90 years, he did a lot of work. And one thing which is related to his death is that when he died, his ashes were buried somewhere, but it is never known to public that where these ashes were buried. Though it is known that in one particular church it is buried, but the plaque in that church says that the ashes are buried nearby. But it is said that only 3 people know exactly where the ashes were buried. One of the 3 people were his own wife, and one was the photographer, because there are 2-3 photographs which show the ashes and the box, but it is never known to the public, it is never told to the public where the ashes were buried. So the reason could be anything, but this is what J.B. Priestley was. And one more thing, he was a great lover of classical music, and this can be seen in many of his works also. He has so much love for this classical music that he tried to mention it, somewhere in his writings. Now we come to this play, Mother's Day. Main characters, first of all, when you are preparing this play, because this is very simple play, but there are certain things which you should know when we are to write the question answers. So first of all, characters. If you remember the characters, you will never miss anything. So we see the characters: Annie Pearson, then George Pearson, Annie's husband; Doris Pearson, daughter; Cyril Pearson, son; and then one most important character, Mrs. Fitzgerald. Actually, the story is about a family where this is Pearson family, and here this lady who is a housewife, she is not given the respect which she deserves, or we can say in a way this play is highlighting this fact that those women who are always engaged in household work, they also deserve respect, because their work is also equally important. So sometimes we feel that maybe this is happening in this area of the world only where India exists, and we feel maybe these things happen in India only where equal, the respect is not given to housewives. But it is happening actually everywhere in the world. So this play is, this is English story, so we can say this play shows that yes, these things happen anywhere, or can happen anywhere where sometime deserving people are not given respect. So here this Mrs. Pearson, she is a housewife, she is not working lady, and she is always busy in the household work, but the respect which she deserves is never given by either her children or her husband. Then comes another character, Mrs. Fitzgerald. She is the neighbor of this lady. We can say not only that she lives in the neighborhood, she is actually her friend also, Mrs. Pearson's friend also. She is a fortune teller also. And here, one day Mrs. Fitzgerald, she tells Now I will be in this story, I am not going to read each and every line. I will be just giving the main ideas or main, we can say, points of the story from where you can get the questions. So first thing is that this lady, Mrs. Fitzgerald, she's a fortune teller, and she, one day when these two ladies are talking together, she tells Mrs. Pearson that I know you do not get respect in your family, but I must say that it is the time now when you should put your foot down and tell your family members that you are important part of this family. Nothing is impossible. Nothing is possible without you. And Mrs. Pearson, reluctantly, she agrees. She's that much loving wife and loving mother that she does not want to discuss all these things with outsiders. And Mrs. Fitzgerald is outsider. So she doesn't want to indulge in all these talks. But Mrs. Fitzgerald, she says, I know you are trying to hide from me, but I know that you do not get respect. Your family members, they take you as the servant, and they expect you to be doing each and everything for them. Okay? They expect you to be on your toes all the time. But now the time is there when you should. This is high time. Now you should tell them that you are important. Now Mrs. Pearson, she reluctantly accepts that yes, this is something happens. I have tried to point out many times. I have tried to give the hints, maybe sometimes, that this is not the way you should treat, okay, or you should talk to me. But Mrs. Fitzgerald says, maybe now, if they never understood their hints, now it is a time when you should straightaway tell them how they should behave. Mrs. Pearson says, okay, I will try. But Fitzgerald says, no, you should not try. You should be very firm in your efforts. You should do it at the earliest. And if you can't do it, I will do it for you. I can teach your family members how to behave with mother. And Mrs. Pearson says, it's good, nice of you that you think a lot for me, but my family members, they would never accept any outsider to interfere in our family matters. And Mrs. Fitzgerald says, no worry, I will not be here as an outsider. I will be teaching them everything as Mrs. Pearson. And Mrs. Pearson is surprised. She says, how can you be Mrs. Pearson? Naturally, they can recognize you that this is not their mother. And Mrs. Fitzgerald says, no, I will not be here as Mrs. Fitzgerald. I will be here as Mrs. Pearson. And Mrs. Pearson is still not able to understand. Then Mrs. Fitzgerald says, I actually know a trick through which we can exchange our bodies, or we can exchange our souls. Means your soul will come in my body and my soul can go to your body. This way, when my soul comes to your body, what will happen? Body will be yours and soul will be mine. Means I will reside in your body, and then they will take it as their mother only, because naturally the body will be of mother's, Mrs. Pearson's, but inside I will be there. I will dictate them, because you can't speak loudly, you can't shout at them, you can't dictate them. You are so loving, so let it be like that only, that I will be there in your body. Mrs. Pearson reluctantly agrees. Again, she is not that ready that her family member should learn this lesson. No. But reluctantly she agrees. And now the bodies are changed, or we can say souls are exchanged. Now, through that magic, or through that magic words, Mrs. Fitzgerald's now soul comes in Pearson's body, and Pearson's soul goes to Fitzgerald's body. There is one more thing which is shown here in the play, that Mrs. Pearson is very submissive, very, polite lady. She does not talk loudly even. And on the other hand, Mrs. Fitzgerald, she is quite opposite. She loves to smoke, she loves to drink. She is very loud and voluble that way. And now, when the soul comes to each other's body, now this Mrs. Pearson, she is now looking very bold because she's smoking, she's drinking, though this is the body of Pearson, but the soul is of Fitzgerald only, and that's why Fitzgerald loves smoking and drinking. So now these bodies are now same, but the souls are different. So Mrs. Pearson, who is now in Fitzgerald's body, she says, now what should I do? And here Fitzgerald says, don't worry, don't remain here, you go to my house, because you are looking Fitzgerald only. So you go to my house, Fitzgerald's house. And because I am in your body, outwardly this is Pearson and this is Pearson's house, so I will remain here and let your children, your husband come, I will teach them a lesson. Again reluctantly she goes. And now this side, this lady with Pearson's body but Fitzgerald's soul, she is left in the house. And at this time the daughter comes. Daughter is Doris Pearson. She comes. And this girl, she is a working girl, very beautiful, but a kind of spoiled girl who doesn't want to do anything, because when she enters, at the entry only, without even looking at mother, she asks her about one yellow dress which she is planning to wear in the evening, because she is having a date with her boyfriend. So now this girl, after asking this question only, she looks at her mother and she's surprised to see that mother is smoking. And she even asks that you're smoking. And Mrs. Pearson says, so what? Is there any rule which says that I can't smoke? And the daughter says, actually I thought you never smoke. You don't like smoking. And this lady says, no, you're wrong. And then the girl asked about this yellow dress. And mother straightway says, no, if you want to wear it in the evening, you go and iron your dress yourself. Because here only she wants to start. She wants to teach that they are grown-up people, they can do these jobs for themselves. So they should do these things on their own. They should not, think, or they should not wait for mother to do each and everything for them. The daughter, because she has seen this kind of behavior from the mother for the first time, she is surprised. But she has nothing now, she cannot say anything. And then, now when we come to page number 38, here this is a long talk between Mrs. Pearson and Doris. Okay, and here only she gets to know, she asks that why you want this yellow dress to wear. And she says, today because I am going to meet Charlie Spence. And here Mrs. Pearson, she does one more thing. She mocks at Charlie Spence. She laughs at Charlie Spence. She says, you can underline these lines where Mrs. Pearson's last dialogue. Okay. She says, if I were of your age, I would never have, liked or chosen this Charlie Spence. Okay. Why? Because she, according to her second last now we just second last dialogue by Mrs. Pearson. She says Charlie Spence, buck teeth and half-witted. These are the words she uses for Charlie Spence. That he's having protruding teeth, and this kind of person he is. And she says, if I were at your place, I would never have chosen that boy. This daughter is shocked because Doris had never expected her mother to talk like that, and she goes away from there. Then comes the son, Cyril Pearson. And Cyril Pearson, he is also like sister, who does not want to do anything on his own. For each and everything, he is also dependent on mother. And maybe before going in the morning, he had told mother for one particular dress which maybe he wanted to wear, and the mother had promised that, okay, don't worry, I will see to that dress. If some mending is, needed, I will do it. But now when he comes back, this is actually not Mrs. Pearson. She doesn't know what they had a talk in the morning. But she doesn't want to show this also, so that's why she says, I haven't, checked that dress. And the son says, but you only promised that if some mending work needed, you will do it. She says, now I don't like it. So this is not your job. Now son is also shocked. And then she asked from son that if some beer is left, some stout is there. Son is really very surprised because he also has never seen mother smoking or drinking. Though he says maybe some is left, some stout is left in the kitchen, and she goes to the kitchen. Now daughter and son, they are together, and now they are talking about this strange behavior of mother, because mother is smoking, mother is drinking, and mother is not same mother who is always very loving. And when brother sister are left all alone, now they are discussing about mother. They discuss about her behavior, strange behavior. And now what they conclude, they have this doubt that maybe when they left their house in the morning for office, something maybe might have happened with mother. She might have hit with something, and maybe that's why something must be there. Though this is far-fetched, but still they have this doubt that yes, something is there. But then they are discussing that is it concussions, loss of memory for some time. Maybe she became unconscious, and then when she came back to her consciousness, maybe something she forgot, and that's why now she is behaving very strangely. And when they are discussing, they start laughing, and the mother enters back. And she is angry that why you are laughing? If you are grown-up people, behave like grown-ups. Even son is angry. Daughter is angry that why you are behaving like this with us? What we have done? We haven't done anything wrong with you. Why you are behaving like this? But mother is not there to answer anything, because she doesn't want to disclose that she is not that mother. And now, in anger, daughter goes to her room to get ready for the evening, and the son goes to kitchen because nothing is ready for them. No tea, no food is ready, and mother says, whatever you want, you can go and prepare. And now I am thinking even that I will also be taking off. It's not that the whole day I will be working for you, and not even 24/7. I will be taking off. I will be going out, having my own time. Though both the children are very surprised. But both the children now, son says, okay, I will eat something. So he goes to the kitchen, and the daughter goes to her room to get ready. And now she's sitting all alone, smoking and drinking, and now husband comes. And when he comes, naturally he is also surprised. He is also not prepared that wife would be drinking or wife would be smoking. And this husband, George Pearson, he asked that you are drinking at this time. And she says, so what? What is the problem? And he says, actually, you never drink like this. Because this is not the occasion. No occasion. Even then you are drinking. And wife gets angry. She says, I can drink at any time. Okay. Moreover, maybe, and husband says, this is really a surprise. And she says, yes, I think one should get some surprises sometime. This is spice of life. And husband says, no, you know it very well. I like smooth life. I don't like any surprises. So don't give me any surprise. And then he says, okay, sorry, I forgot to tell you in the morning that today I will not be having dinner at home because I'm going to club. We have a game over there. I will take my dinner over there. And right now also, after getting ready, I will be going to club. No tea. I don't want any tea. She says, it's okay, good. Because even I haven't prepared a tea. This is good. And George gets angry. He says, what does it mean? You haven't prepared a tea? Because this is your job. You always prepare tea for us. And she says, it's good that I didn't prepare tea and you don't want it. But husband says, suppose I want it. Now this Mrs. Pearson, she gets angry. She says, what is this? You should be happy that there is no wastage, because if I had prepared the tea, naturally it would have been a wastage only, because you don't need. And then she says, why you are shouting for this thing? Have you ever tried this thing at the club? Is it that any time you had gone to the bartender and you told him that you don't want any drink, and then next moment you start fighting with him that why your drink is not ready? Because this is the same thing you're doing here. On one hand you say you don't need tea, on the other hand you're fighting why your tea is not ready. And she says, if you go do it in the club, they will laugh at you, and they will laugh at you more than they laugh at present. George is surprised. He says, no, nobody laughs at me in the club. She says, no, everybody laughs at you. And you are the standing joke. Not only standing joke, they have given you name, page number 45. You are one of their standing jokes, famous. And she says, they have given you a name. They call you Pompey Ompy Pearson. And he's not ready to accept. He says, no, I don't agree. Nobody laughs at me. They have great respect for me. She says, go and check. By this time, Cyril from the kitchen comes back. And he calls Cyril. He says, come here. Because you were also with me in the club 1 or 2 times. Have you ever seen people laughing at me? And this son says, yes, Papa. People have given you this name and they laugh at you. And after hearing this, George is really surprised. He doesn't know what to answer. Though here Cyril is not very happy with mother, because he feels that mother should not had, said all these things. It's okay that people laugh at him, but if he doesn't know, then it was good. Now he's really feeling very bad. He's very sad. But Mrs. Pearson says, I believe that person should know the truth. And now, right now only, Mrs. Fitzgerald, who is actually the body of Fitzgerald, but inside it's Pearson, she comes back to see what is happening in the house. And she gets to know that daughter was very sad because she saw that she was having tears in her eyes. Son is also not in good mood. Even George is also exhausted. He's also feeling cheated somewhere, and she tells that you should not have done this. And then she requested the family members that please, you just leave us here. I will talk to your wife and maybe everything will be okay. So these family members of Pearson, they are very happy at least somebody is there to mend the things, and they leave them alone. And now this real Pearson in the body of Fizzard, she says, I really want to come back to my own body. Mrs. Fizzard says, no, wait. They have just started learning now. There is more to come. But this Pearson, she says, no, I can't see my family members in distress. Please, I beg of you. You come back to your body. I want to go back to my body. Mrs. Fizzard says, okay. If you want, now if you think that whatever I have done, you can, continue with this, no problem. And then through the same magic words, they come back to their original bodies. Now Mrs. Pearson is real Pearson, Fizzard is real Fizzard. And now the things are smooth. Mrs. Fizzard now wants this Mrs. Pearson to remain strict. She says, many things I have already taught your children, but never ever tell your family members that it was not you who was very strict, who was smoking, who was drinking, who was altogether different lady. She says, never let your family members get to know it. You just keep pretending that it was you only who was very angry, and in future also you can be same. Very strict, very angry if they don't listen to you. Because if you tell them that it was not you, then the things will come back to its original place. So if you want your children to give you respect or to obey you, then you should keep this mood on, where you are to show that you are very strict when the time comes. So she promises that okay. And then they call the family members on the stage. Everybody is there, and Mrs. Fizzard, now real Fizzard, she says goodbye to the family members, and now the family is happy family left together on the stage. And mother says, now Mrs. Pearson, she tells the children to prepare dinner for that night, and she says, while you two go and prepare dinner, I with your father will be having a nice time chatting over here. And the children, they agree to do so. So this is the play Mother's Day. Here we can say again it is shown that sometime strictness is also needed. This mother always showed pure love, which is not bad, but sometimes things need to be checked. I hope with this summary, because I have given you bit summary only, because I know this play is very easy, you can understand it, but these are the main points which you can revise, and then you will be able to do your questions. Thank you.